You are now listening to the Conscious Creative Corner, the intersection of unapologetic lifestyle and creativity. Get ready to be inspired and dive into uncensored truths with tackling business and mental space with other transparent influencers and entrepreneurs. Let our conscious conversation normalize the chaos you may call life. Let's get consciously creative. Hey guys, today on the Conscious Creative Corner, we have a throwback. And when I say throwback, I mean it's like a year old. It was a recording I did, or I should say podcast episode I did with a young lady exactly a year ago when she asked me to come on the show and explain to people how I monetize my blog and how I became a creator. I am so excited to share this with you as she shared her rights to the episode with me. Her name is SIerra Renee and her show is called the SIerra Renee Show, and I do urge you to go check it out. She hasn't made an episode in a while, but I did tell her that she should start again because she
Hello.
Hi love, how are you?
I am well. Hey guys, we have Sia Wiggins on the line with her beautiful daughter. She is a mamapreneur, so don't mind the baby noises. How are you today?
I'm great. You know, it's Friday. I mean, my Friday is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Ooh, okay.
But, you know, the joys of being a business owner, but it's Friday. I'm living, I'm breathing. It's another day, so everything is awesome over here. How are you?
I am well. I'm doing great. Today is a lovely day. I'm just in the best mood. So, tell the listeners a little bit more about what you do and your business.
Okay, yeah. So, hello, you guys. I am Sia. Full name Felicia, but everyone calls me Sia. I like to call myself the ex-clinician because I used to be a therapist, but now I am a full-time business owner. I'm a blogging and business coach, and I just help business owners and aspiring bloggers to upload their content so their content can turn into cash. And when I'm not doing that, I am taking care of my lovely daughter, Mia. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yes. Okay. So what inspired you to do this for yourself, to start a business and to be self-employed? Like, what was your journey like?
So my story is so cliche. Just like many others, you know, I found myself going through school and thinking that, you know, I liked something because I was great at it. And this is actually when I learned the difference between zone of excellence and zone of genius, right? So my zone of genius is conducting therapy, helping, you know, the mentally ill get better, the people who are struggling with anxiety, day-to-day anxieties, for them to really find that space within themselves to feel comfortable to be themselves within this world that's so chaotic. And that's my zone of genius. But I realized that within my zone of genius, I was struggling myself. I was just like, you know, I like doing this. This isn't really like where I'm passionate, or this isn't where my passion lies. Like, I learned that my zone of excellence came from when I was able to expound upon my creativity, where I was able to create videos and blog posts and anything that really pushed me to where I could really kind of tell the world who I am and what I do without using my voice, or I should say not my voice, but without me actually explaining what I do, but doing it through creativity. That's where I found this place of like shared passion. And so I decided one day, like, you know what? There are other great therapists out there. I think it's time for me to do something for myself. And that's when I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do blogging full time and help others do this as well, because people get so trapped within their four walls at their workplace. And I'm just like, you guys don't need to do that. There is business within blogging. So that's just how it happened, which is pretty cliche because I feel like everyone's just like, oh, I hated my job and now I do this. And I guess that's where I lay. So.
Right. And I think that's really the pinnacle of a lot of people's journeys these days, because we're learning about methods of monetizing our passion, and we're learning that we can actually make money from doing things that we're good at. So speaking of monetization, what advice do you have for someone who is looking to make a career out of blogging? Because it's so easy to go ahead and create a blog, but there is this sense of, oh my gosh, when it comes to actually creating revenue from the act of blogging. So what advice do you have for aspiring bloggers?
Okay, yeah, so I love answering this question. And what I'm going to actually do is plug in something that happened earlier this week. It's kind of twofold. So one of my past students from the academy that I run, she told, I guess, someone else that she's in a Facebook group with about me. And so she reached out on Facebook and she was like, hey, you know, such and such told me about you. Can you help? And, you know, we went into this long conversation, and long story short, she told me like she didn't start a blog because she's Muslim, and she was so afraid of backlash, and she really wanted to quit her teaching job so that she could start creating revenue online and start a blog. But her passion lies in teaching people about her religion and her political views and recipes. And she was just like, I feel like the whole world is going to belittle me, and they're going to be so nasty to me, and I just can't find myself actually stepping out of the teaching role to do this, even though she hated teaching. And so we got into this long conversation, and I really understood where she was coming from, right? Because being different, no matter how different you are, just being different point blank sets you apart, and it makes you feel so little, and we are like our biggest critique. And so when we feel little and we're belittling ourselves, you can only imagine what others might think of you. And so for her, my advice was just do it. I mean, as simple as that. I was just like, I rather, and I told her I'm really different when it comes to starting a business, because people will say, well, you got to be mindful of other people. And for me, and I'm just like, no, I don't need to be mindful of other people, because if this person was meant to work with me, or if this person was meant to read my material, then they'll either like it or they don't. And if they don't, then okay, they can have an opinion of their own, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but it's not going to stop my creativity. So I told her the same thing, and I was like, I understand that for you, being Muslim is just like something really, it's really hard for her to be Muslim and then put it out there into the interwebs.
Absolutely.
In that space, because people are so nasty behind a computer. But I also told her, at the end of the day, unless someone's like a super hacker, they're not going to track where you live and come kill you. That was her biggest fear, is just like, I don't want this to turn into like something horrid. I was just like, at the end of the day, that's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is that you're going to miss out on a teaching opportunity. You're going to miss out on teaching someone that you guys, because she's like, everyone thinks I'm a bomber. And I'm just like, you're going to miss out on the opportunity of teaching someone that you're not a bomber, and that you're not out to kill the whole entire world. And you're going to do that, and you're missing the opportunity to actually correct that person from those misconceptions. But it was such a long, conversation. But I was just like, wow, this is great, because she wants to do something, but her fears are really holding her back. And fears are not just holding her back from creativity, but it's holding her back from her money. And no one should ever hold you back from your bag, okay?
Absolutely.
And with monetization now, the second part, I told her that there is so many different avenues nowadays. When I started 11 years ago, oh God, 11 years ago, aging myself. Literally the only thing you could do was, I shouldn't say only, but at this point, the only thing that most bloggers were doing were putting ads on their blogs, right? Right now, that's so antiquated. No one really does that. Sure, people do it, but you don't make that much money from it.
Right.
Now you can make money from building your own product, affiliateships, sponsorships, ambassadorships. You know, like there's so many different ways to do it, but you just have to put yourself out there and create that content without fears of what someone else might say. And you know what? If someone does say something, then you're doing something right because someone's reading your material. Like you just don't want your stuff to go unread. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just kind of going out there and doing it and knowing that you aren't stuck. Like you don't put a cap on yourself when you're creating a blog or creating content for cash, because you decide how much money you want to get. If outside of the ad world, because the advertisers decide how much you get, but when you are you doing the other stuff, you decide how much you want to get, and how frequently, and so on and so forth. So it's just it's a great space to be in.
Absolutely. And I think it's great that you are kind of giving this value as far as not being afraid to be a disruptor, just because that's the kind of space that I want to create for not only women who are in business for themselves, but women of color, because often I find that a lot of us feel stifled, or we feel like we have to be a certain way to, generate money. And that's what I was saying in the last podcast, is that it's not going to stop your bag if you're just being yourself. And especially if you are creating waves in whatever industry you're in, it's okay to go against the grain a little. You know what I mean?
And I think too, like being a woman of color, we want to fit in so badly that we're afraid to stand out, right? Because no one wants to be that girl or that black girl. Okay?
Right.
No one wants to be that black girl going against the grain, or telling someone off. Not that that's not the approach you have to have, but that's how people automatically see us. Well, at least from my experience, that's how people automatically see us as soon as you step out of line. And I think that's kind of what's holding people back when they're just saying like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid. It's fear of not being accepted. And, as a Black woman, or for me at least, I have experienced not being accepted all my life, to the point where I feel like I've become numb. And that's not a great place to be, but it's a good starting point to know that a change has to happen. Especially in the business world, because we aren't represented as much as we need to be. So.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think that from my experience, it was more so like I grew up with a mother who was just like, listen, this is who you are. Don't kiss nobody's butt. And, just you say what you have to say. And so I grew up in a very liberated position, because our parents do play an important part in our lives, and to kind of have that sense of, okay, you can be and say whatever you want. My mom is one of the most blunt people that I know, and she's not going to stifle her opinion for anybody's feelings. And so I think that contributes to maybe the way that we function, but also it's just knowing that if you can speak for yourself, in this instance, as a woman of color, I'm not saying that we're representing everyone's opinion, but you kind of speak for the minority in a way. You know what I mean? And so I'm wondering, what do you feel? Talk about your experience as a Black woman and just overcoming that ability to step out of your shell, because for a long time I wouldn't do videos like I'm doing now, because I thought that I would create some really cute special like structured post that was a text post about what I had to say, because I thought that this is how I was supposed to give value. And I have never seen my following grow so fast now because of the kind of content that I am creating, and I'm not afraid to ruffle feathers, and I'm not afraid to say what I have to say. And like we talked about for a long time, it's kind of like you want to be accepted because you've been told by people who are doing X, Y, and Z that this is the way that you need to be or represent yourself to go further. But the reality is the experience of a Black woman is so different that nobody can tell us how to navigate but us. So what do you think contributed to you kind of moving into a space where you came into your own and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and it really just don't matter what anyone else is going to say?
So for me, the experience is quite different. So I have a sister who's 10 years younger than me, and watching her grow up, I'm just like, wow, you have been afforded so much. So I wasn't originally born in America. My mother and I were from Jamaica, and so my mother and I migrated here. I want to say I was like in grade school, and my mother always preached this, right? So she was just like, we're not in Jamaica anymore. You need to learn how to speak proper. Like literally every time I would say something, my mother would ingrain that in my head. And she was just like, my mom, I'm sorry for the listeners, my mom would just be like, the white people are not, and this is her exact words, the white people are not going to accept you because you're a little, like, you're a little brown girl, and you don't look like them. Basically, that's what she would say, right? And so for me growing up, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I need to learn how to speak this way. Oh gosh, I can't do that because people at school would be like, what are you saying? I don't understand. So for me, when I was growing up, I'm just like, okay, I need to learn how not to be myself. And it messed with my mind, Sierra, so much. Like when I got into like what was it, like 10th, 11th grade, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore, because that's when I started seeing people that were like me, and I found my little Jamaican crew, and, and then they taught me, like, they're like, girl, don't listen to your mom, you're all right. But see, for my mom, it was just her, and so she really wanted to make sure she found a space where she could get a job, and she could provide for us. And she was learning really quickly that she wouldn't be able to get a job if she didn't sound and look like other people that didn't look like her. And so for me, I grew up with that same construct until I found my group of friends. And then that's when I learned, like, wow, I don't know who I was, but that's not who I was. And from that experience, I always tell my sister, I'm just like, listen, thank God my mom doesn't think that anymore. She's now one of those blunt moms, and she's ready to cuss anybody out at any minute. I remember being banned from certain stores after she learned. After a couple of years of being here, after she learned, she was like, "No, I'm not gonna get treated like this." And it was so embarrassing as a teenager. But anyway, I tell my sister all the time, like, if you want to start a business, because she sees me, she sees what I'm doing, and she's learning, like, okay, I can start a business as a Black girl. I can, and I'm so thankful for her friends too, because some of her friends have their own businesses, and she's just like, I can do this. And I tell her all the time, you need to stand out. And in order to stand out, like you said, you have to be yourself, because you are branding yourself essentially before you brand a product. People don't even care what you sell. It's really who's the person selling it. Absolutely. I always think about Apple. Like, Apple could sell you something for $5,000. That's the simplest thing. It's just a brand, And so you're branding yourself first and foremost. And for me, I guess I always remember that. And if someone's not gonna like me, I don't take it personal, because I'm just not that cup of tea, and everyone's not my cup of tea. So my experience is just a little bit different, where I had to learn how to grow out of that construct and then kind of create my own, where I'm just like, it's okay to be different, it's okay to be myself, and then kind of spin off from that. But it's I can see where it's hard for women of color, because again, we've been so oppressed for so many years, and we're still going through it. Sad to say. I mean, sure, it's gotten a little bit better, but has the percentage grew a lot? No. And you think about all these different movements, all these things that are happening, and yet we're still underlooked, undervalued. And I don't understand why any woman would still want to work in a workplace where we're still getting less than men. Like, it just
Absolutely.
doesn't make sense. But
Absolutely.
hey, you know, if you have a family, you have to provide. You got to do what you got to do. But
Yep.
so,
Absolutely. And I feel that. I feel it on a personal level. And I think that it's just really great that we at least have this space where we can make impact on other brown women, because I have younger sisters, and my sister is 13 and she sees me and she's like, oh my gosh, like, she looks at me, she's like, you made $1,000, you kind of rich, like, you know what I mean?
right.
So, you know, it's just this crazy thing where the fact that we are able to build something that belongs to us is we're just in a climate where it's interesting to see it play out. But definitely, I think that we still lack, you know, representation. I'm looking around at all of these movements, and I'm looking around at all of these spaces. We're carving out spaces for women, and we're carving out spaces for different empowerment, things like that. But there is nothing that I personally can identify with, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing on, you know, with SIerra Renee Media, because it's like, nobody's speaking like me. No one's creating something that I can look at and say, oh my gosh, like, I see myself in this tweet, or I see myself in this quote, or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think that creating that space in particular is one of the most important things to focus on right now, especially for me. I know for me, that's something that I'm placing emphasis on, is just getting women of color this opportunity to not only share a space, but to create a sense of understanding and representation at the same time, because I don't see myself in any of what's going on right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's tough, and you know, we kind of fall into that category where if you don't see something that doesn't fit, you're trying to mold yourself into it. Like, okay,
right.
Well, how can I relate? So it's good that, you know, people like you are creating spaces where we can have a sense of community, where we are being not just represented, but appropriately represented, you know?
Absolutely.
And again, yeah, we don't speak for all Black women or women of color,
right?
But it's one step closer, right, than nothing,
right?
And you touched on something before, you know, having a business that you can call your own, and I think it's so great. So kind of going back into the clinical world, where I would serve people of color, people in low income communities, and I would see so many of them saying, oh, I just got this brand new stereo system, or I bought this new couch. I have a favorite client of mine. She used to always get so many different things. I'm like, oh girl, I love this. And she's just like, I'm just like, oh, where'd you get it? She's like, Rent a Center, literally Rent a Center. And I'm just like, okay, we need to fix this, because
absolutely,
if you think about it, yeah, we want, again, it's just like that vision of having it all, looking like everybody else, and to look like everybody else. Okay, I gotta fit in. To fit in, I need to go get this. So I'm gonna go rent this so I could fit in,
right?
You know, and just having something that's their own. It's just it's a feeling that's like no other, right? But not a lot of women or people of color that get to experience that, because we're just so stuck in this repetitive cycle of I mean, we kind of fall, this is a whole different topic, but you know, you kind of fall into it where society says you have to be one way, so you do this, and then you fall into debt, and it's a vicious cycle. But having something that you can call your own is an end goal that I want for all women, especially women of color. So I think that's absolutely pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that in our communities, we need to start having real, true conversations about ownership that doesn't include like, oh, my son played basketball, or he went to go, now he's a rapper and he blew up. Like, we need to really have conversations about wealth building versus appearing that we have wealth, or there needs to be, and this is what I stand for, there needs to be a real representation of building, not oh, I never took an L, or I never fail, or we need to have more conversations about, you know what, I failed and this is what it looks like and I'm cool with it. Or I don't like driving Mercedes-Benz. I mean, I want to drive a Mercedes-Benz. Eventually I will, but right now I don't. You know what I mean? Or we need to talk about how our Black babies deserve businesses and land instead of Jordans and whatever else.
Yeah, girl, say it again. No, seriously.
I'm serious.
It's so serious.
And we need we need to have that sort of education, because I think that the social climate would be so different if we extended this knowledge and we were open to also receiving it. So that's why making that space is so important.
It really is. It really is. And it takes a village, you know. So getting the right set of people to have that same vision and then carry it out is most important, because a lot of times, you know, on my timeline, I see a lot of people saying, okay, let's do this, and it never gets done. Right. And it's just one thing to have a vision, but actually executing it so that things like this can happen, so that we aren't having, I'd rather have people own land, like you said, than own Jordans, you know. And I think that's like the biggest thing, like create your wealth, and having people really execute this plan, it excites me, but I don't see it happen all the time. So hopefully we can make a change, you know.
Absolutely.
Get things going.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, it's just, for me personally, it has just been a lot. It's been a journey of figuring out how I want to define myself, in addition to remembering that I'm also young. So trying not to have the weight of the world on my shoulders, because I feel like I have to. But I definitely just think that we need to create something that is just, it's a pillar for Black women. What tips do you have for a Black woman or woman of color in general? I don't want to say just Black people, because there are so many people of color in the world. So what advice do you personally have? Because I mean, you're a bit older than me. I'm 20. So you gotta like come at it from a big sis angle. What advice do you have for a younger person who is looking to start their own business? And of course, at this time, you're a little bit self-conscious, some more than others, some less than others. What advice do you have for someone who is like, you know what, I'm a woman of color, I want to start my own business, and I just don't know how, like, I'm afraid or whatever? Like, what push, or even what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh gosh, yes. Okay. So knowing what I know now, I think for me, at least, we're always afraid to ask for help, because we think we can do things on our own. And it's not true.
Right.
Not saying that you can't execute things on your own, but everyone needs someone. So for someone that is, you know, a little bit hesitant about starting their own business and kind of shy, or, you know, isn't really certain, find yourself a mentor. Do your research. Find someone that you not aspire to be, but aspire to be better than, right? That is doing what you're doing, that can kind of give you the roadmap, but then you take it upon yourself to make it better. I say that to say it's a lot. Being young, I remember I had a little side shea butter business some time ago, and I had no idea what I was doing. Sure, I would get sales here and there, just making some quick cash while I was in school. But if I had a mentor or just knew exactly what I was doing, I feel like I could have blew up a little bit more. I could have tripled my income than whatever I had from before. But finding someone that can help you and has your best interest in mind, it's tough to do, because not everybody is for you. But definitely doing your research and looking at other people too. Like, now we have social media, and you can follow some of your favorite business owners. And sometimes those people will respond, if you say, hey, can you not say, can you mentor me, but build a relationship first and
Right.
then kind of go in with that. Okay, I love what you're doing. Would you mind? Can I hop on a call with you just to talk? Because there's so many different angles and facets to business that you don't even think about until you're in it, and then you become so overwhelmed, and then that's when most people give up. You know,
Right.
so just making sure that you have someone that can lead you in that right direction. Again, you can do it all by yourself, but I am a fan of not reinventing the wheel.
Yep.
So just taking the time to plan things out. And again, it's that fear factor. There's always going to be that voice in your head that says you can't do this, but of course you can, because you've thought about it, right? Your mind has taken you to that place where you can envision it. So if you can envision it, you can absolutely do it.
Absolutely. I have a mentor. She is one of the best people in the world, and she always tells me, never, ever, ever reinvent the wheel. Just make it better. So that's amazing advice. So tell the listeners where they can find you if they want to reach out and get in touch or follow you. Let us know.
Oh, yes. So you can reach out on both my personal page where I do my blogging, which is Nearly Sia, NEARLYCIA on Instagram, or my other business page where I help young women create their businesses and content and blogs, and that's Achieve Her Perfection. So that is ACHIEVHER Perfection, no E at the end of Achieve, on Instagram, or achieveherperfection.com. I am always, always, always talking with people. Even if you want to chit chat one about some ideas off, I am not one of those people who's going to say, oh, I charge for my time, but I love just being a soundboard for someone, so
yes.
You don't waste your time. So definitely reach out if you want to chat.
Love it. Love it. So thank you so much for giving me your time. You and your cute daughter. She is so adorable. And she's so adorable. And just thank you for having this important dialogue. And I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
It has. So I will talk soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey creatives, thanks for listening to the Conscious Creative Corner. If you like the show, be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other creatives find ways to listen to our uncensored truths. Be sure to check me out on Instagram to let me know how you enjoyed the show. You can find me at Nearly Sia or Achieve Her Perfection. And if you are a struggling creative that's trying to find their creative niche, don't forget that you can sign up for my creative content business tips in the show notes, or you can visit achieveherperfection.com. I'll talk to you guys soon.